Hey guys, what's going on? We're back on the 11.1 PTR, checking out all the PvP modifiers for Enhancement Shaman, or the lack of PvP modifiers. That's a cool down. Anyways, so as I've been looking through this, and I've been seeing some things have been modified and some things haven't, and some things seem to have either lost or been buffed enough in PvE that the PvP modifiers are no longer required in a sense. So kind of interesting. But anyways, let's get into this. So first off, we're going to talk about PvP modifiers. If you don't know what they are, essentially it is whenever you attack a enemy player or get in form of PvP combat, your abilities change to their PvP modified if they have any tooltips. So for instance, if I were to attack this mob, Wind Fury weapon is going to go up to around 64% damage. As you can see, it is up to 62, sorry. The reason for that is because of different scaling. Certain things do more damage in PvE when they don't want them to, and they want certain abilities to do more in PvP, and so on. So that is essentially what a PvP modifier is. It's just making the spell either do more damage or less damage when entering PvP combat, so it is, in a sense, balanced to a point. But yeah. So let's get into this. So first off, we have a really weird one, and I think everybody remembers for enhancement is Feral Spirits. So Feral Spirits currently has a PvP modifier on it at negative 75%, bringing it down to a very low buff, but it's still somewhat useful. So that effect is still active for regular Feral Spirits. So, and I'm going to show off here for it. So you can see regular Feral Spirits, 15% physical damage dealt increased, and you will see that go right down to 5%. So that kind of makes Feral Spirits almost pointless, right? But at the same time, it's still really good because in the current state of the season, where Storm Strike and Wind Fury and even Lava Lash, they're doing damage, and you know the physical amp is actually still useful, and it becomes more relevant here. But with the change to elemental spirits, and this was more the reason why Feral Spirits got nerfed, but it's also due to our tier set from last season having that extra Feral Spirit active. We now gain a elemental damage buff at 10% and a physical damage buff. But the weird thing is that there is no PvP modifier on this yet. So I cannot say for certain whether or not that is going to get changed or if they're going to keep it like that. But I have a feeling it will. There's going to be a big patch note before the season starts, is what I'm thinking, and that's where all the PvP changes are going to happen, because a lot of the PvPers are going to be trying out the changes coming patch 11.1. When this drops, we have, I think, 1 or 2 weeks, I think it's 1 week, to try out the changes and see how everything does. But yeah, that is the first weird one. So Feral Spirits, we could see a PvP modifier. If not, Feral Spirits is going to go insane because the physical damage scaling and the nature scaling is going to go crazy. More or less the physical with Wind Fury, Doom Winds, and so on. But the next one is going to be our tier set. So our tier set isn't nerfed as much as I thought it was going to be. The first set is only nerfed by about, like, I think it's like 40% or 30%, something like that. Not very much. It goes down to 15%. The 4 set, however, barely gets nerfed at all. So you can see here, it nerfs the increased damage to which Doom Winds grants Crash Lightning, but the additional 100% does not change. So Crash Lightning is actually going to still be doing a lot of damage. But the big part here is that Doom Winds is not getting a duration nerf. It's staying at 4 seconds, which kind of does make sense. But at the same time, that's going to be huge. Because Doom Winds is going to play a massive role in this season, I think. And it already does massive burst. But I think in season 2, enhancement is going to be back to its massive lottery jackpot roll crap. So if you did miss it, it's coming back in a very severe way. On top of that, you are most likely going to be playing with deeply rooted elements, but at the same time, yeah. So this is pretty big. That's another reason why I think Feral Spirits is going to be big, because we want to buff our physical damage as much as possible due to Doom Winds being high, Wind Fury doing a significant amount of damage, and getting mad activations with the amount of Doom Winds we're going to have. But at the same time, it I don't know if they're going to nerf or what, but lately we've been seeing a lot of nerfs to Wind Fury, to Storm Strike and stuff in PvE. So we'll have to see how that transfers over to PvP as well. And I haven't really had a chance to do any arena scrimmies or anything on the PTR, mainly because nobody really does them. So the real testing will be done once the patch goes live and we get that 1 week breather to test stuff out. But yeah, so as for builds, as for other modifiers, there aren't really any more. From what I've seen, it's just like Wind Fury. Storm Strike modifier doesn't seem to be there as much anymore. As you can see, it stays the same, mainly because it got buffed by 100% in PvE. So I think they just removed it from PvP, or it just caught up or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how they put it on, but essentially Storm Strike is still going to be somewhat the same as it is right now in the season, and it's going to become even more powerful with the Feral Spirit changes. But as for builds, there is this totemic one. Primordial Storm does not have a modifier on it, which again, as I said in a previous video, I think Primordial Storm could be really, really good for cleave effects. So when you're fighting Ret Warrior or TSG or, other cleaving effects, I think it could be good. But with everything looking, I think Stormbringer with all the damage modifiers on it, so ignore the left side, but I think this could be potentially the best build. You can swap out Molten Assault for Lava Lash. Actually, here, let me just fix this, because this should definitely be different. And then we don't want Primordial Wave. Yeah. So I think something like this would be best. Again, not 100% sure because things are changing. But with the change to Legacy of the Frost Witch granting 15% at rank 1, I think it's more worth it to have 2 Elemental Assault buffing Storm Strike, guaranteeing that Maelstrom generation. On top of that, it's mostly there for the reset, but the 15% damage buff to physical damage is going to go crazy. And then you run Root of Elements to add the RNG effect and not make yourself as predictable in damage output. So I do think Stormbringer Storm is going to be the better option out of the 2 builds. Totemic Storm has kind of seen a fall off with the recent changes to the Wind Fury buff from it. This got nerfed down to 8%. It was, I believe it was 15 or something of the damage. So you've seen a pretty big nerf there, but they've also just buffed out Living Totem and reactivity to buff Lava Lash even more. But with the recent nerfs to Lava Lash, Hot Hands getting a 2-second duration decrease, as well as Ashen Catalyst reducing the amount of damage Lava Lash does, I don't know if Lava Lash is going to be as powerful as it was in Season 1. But at the same time, like, Wind Fury is just getting its massive buff through tier set and just the PvP modifier as well. Doom Winds is going to be active so much more and add that RNG factor. As well as Legacy of the Frost Switch, just buffing your physical damage even more. But the reason why Stormbringer is because every time you Tempest, you summon a Nature Feral Spirit, which not only increases your nature damage by 10%, it also increases your physical damage by 10% due to the new elemental spirits. So I think it really will go kind of crazy in PvP combat. I really do. Storm Swell you could use, but I think Supercharge is just so much better. But yeah, those are like the main effects that I think are going to go kind of crazy here. I really do think this season is going to be back to Stormstrike Wind Fury, but again, it all depends on the final tuning before the season starts, after all the testing is done on the live servers as well. We did see a nerf to Awakening Storms. It used to be every 3 procs you would get a Tempest, but it's now up to every 4 procs you get a Tempest now. So it is a slight nerf, but I don't think that's really going to take too much of effect here. But yeah, I truly do think Stormbringer Storm is going to be the better option out of the two, unless they put some serious activators on the Lavlash side, or Lavlash just seems to keep doing more and more damage, right? So, and we did recently see a buff to Ascendance, gaining damage to Wind Strike, but I'm not certain on if that applies to PvP either. It was like a 30% buff or something. They took out like 30% from Storm Strike and put it into Wind Strike. So, but yeah, I think Enhancement is really going to be Storm Strike meta. And at the same time, we're getting back our unpredictability. So this is pretty big because I think if you're watching this, you've probably felt the frustration of popping Ascendants and receiving all the CC in the world and stuff like that, not being able to actually use it. The unpredictability is coming back with Deeply Rooted Elements, as well as a tier set for random Doom Winds. But I could definitely see Doom Winds getting hit with a heavy nerf in PvP because of how much Wind Fury is going to go. It's going to go insane. But yeah, guys, that's my thoughts. So it could either be this for Stormbringer, swapping out Voltic Blaze for maybe Hailstorm if you really want, because Hailstorm does go pretty hard. And then we can take the Totemic build using Primordial Storm in like maybe like cleave scenarios, or like true funnel cleave into like Demonology or BM Hunter. But I truly do think that the Storm build is going to go even better with that. Even though they did lose Ride the Lightning, we could see something else come back, but at the same time it gives you that option to choose another defensive. Other than that, Ancestral Guidance, again, it's lost, but Healing Stream Totem, I believe it doesn't have, it has a little modifier on it, but I don't know if it really is going to replace Ancestral Guidance. I really don't think so, but you're going to put the point that you had in there probably into it, so that way you have that passive heal. But yeah, other than that, those are the builds that I think are going to be the better options for PvP at the moment. Now, I can't guarantee anything because the final patch is not out yet, and we haven't seen an actual PvP patch come out either. But yeah, these are my thoughts on it. This is what I think is going to be the better options for PvP. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on everything. And yeah, I hope for the best for everybody in the Season 2. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Laters!